Hey there, everybody. Welcome back to the Check Engine Podcast. It's the only podcast produced by three winners of IMSA's Spirit of the Race Award back at the 2015 Salen's 6 Hours of the Glen. Today we are recording on Friday the 13th.
Dun, dun,
Oh my God, is it?
It is.
I don't know what day it is. Not even close.
Andrew's had a rough week. Do either of you guys have any Friday the 13th-like superstitions? Andrew or Tristan, my co-hosts?
No, but that was a possible date for our wedding.
Ooh.
And we had to nix that apparently because it was the 13th. Although, weirdly, my wife has a suspicion about even numbers, not odd ones.
So who moved the wedding date then?
She was like, no, we can't have that.
So even though it was an odd number.
Yeah, so I don't know what that's about.
Maybe she's just superstitious about numbers.
But she will go, like, volume knobs.
She won't stop at 7.
Yeah, no, yeah, it has to be on an odd number. It can't be on an even number.
Oh, she will only stop at 7.
Temperature has to be on an odd number.
So, like, if you're supposed to bake something at 350, she'll go 351?
If she could, she would definitely do that.
Really?
But it also, wait, I just remember. It also can't be on a 5, because the 5 is the even of the odds.
Okay, I'm going to need a flow chart probably, I think.
This is getting way too complicated.
Yeah.
I'm sorry I asked. Tristan, do you have any?
I do, when I happen to notice, adhere to the, all the digits on the clock being the same. So, like, 11:11, 3:33, 4:44, being, like, notice it and, think of something,
Make a wish?
Not necessarily
Yeah, like-
that, but, like, I wouldn't go that far because it's not, my superstition's not that strong. But when I notice it, I go, oh, hey, and then, like, think about something.
Like what?
Like what?
Something that you want. It's like, I guess you could call it making a wish, but it's not like, but like you don't say like, oh, I really want this to happen. You just kind of think about, whatever.
So,
it's not,
So you
because,
you think about stuff like you do the rest of the day. So basically, you see 444 and then just go about your day.
I see 4:44 and say, man, I really hope that when I get home, there's going to be chicken for dinner. Like
You
little
can make that happen.
See,
Yeah.
exactly. Is it really a superstition if you have control over it?
Oh my God!
No, we don't have time.
Can we just start this podcast over, please? I'm sorry I brought it up.
This is why we need the soundboard. We can do like a little boop, and then we can
Like, oh man.
Take 2.
exactly.
Okay, as you may have gathered by now, everybody, we're not pros. We're just three guys who love talking about cars, believe it or not, even though we haven't gotten to that yet.
Apparently anything.
Well, we will talk about anything, but the purpose of this podcast is for cars and racing and motorsports and all that kind of stuff, the auto industry, but we're not a part of it at all. We're fanboys. We like to talk about it, and we want to talk about it with you. If you would like to talk about it with us, just go to checkenginepodcast.com. You can find links to our socials that you can get in hold of us. You can direct email us from there, either inbox@checkenginepodcast.com or any one of our names, Nick, Andrew, or Tristan at checkenginepodcast.com, and let us know what you think. What is on the agenda for this episode?
This episode is going to be something new, something we haven't tried before. I think it's going to be the first in a series of episodes that we're subtitling Hi, Dr. Nick, because Nick, as the resident racing expert, more or less, I mean,
I wouldn't go PhD.
No,
Subject matter expert is a safe bet, though.
definitely.
Yeah.
But Dr. Nick sounds better than subject matter expert Nick.
Smee. Nick.
Smee Nick?
Yeah, there you go.
Smenick.
Perfect.
Nick.
He's going to talk to us about racing, and today we're going to talk about the single biggest type of racing in the United States, which, well, I can't speak for Tristan. I absolutely have nothing to do with it. I don't know how Tristan feels about it. Nick, I think he likes it. Of course, we're talking about NASCAR.
Right.
Which is NASCAR backwards, actually. It's the same forwards as backwards.
I don't have a whiteboard to write it out and find out for sure, but I don't think you're right.
Well.
As a subject matter expert, I'm gonna say that's incorrect.
Although it does sound like computer parts. It's a Racecar.
It does. It really does.
So yeah, we're gonna talk NASCAR. We're gonna talk, well, I mean, what it is, how they go about their business, a little bit of history. Why does it matter to the general population as much as it does, and does it matter to you guys? To me, I enjoy it to an extent. I'm a racing junkie, so if it moves and it races, I'll watch it. So I can find something appealing about any motorsport that I happen to tune into or go watch. The thing for NASCAR is there's so many races. You know, the big series, the Monster Cup series runs 38 times a year. The Xfinity series runs 32 or 34 times, and then the Truck series runs another 20. Like, NASCAR is always on.
It's like baseball.
Yeah.
It's kind of like the baseball of motorsports, and then of major motorsports. So for me, NASCAR is something that I'll tune into if there's nothing else on. If IndyCar is off, if IMSA is off, if there's no Formula One, okay, NASCAR's on. I can still get my motorsports fix from watching the NASCAR race. So that's what it is for me at this point. But yeah, before we get into any of that, we do. This is a racing episode, so we better start with pace laps, right?
For sure.
You guys have any automotive news tidbits or neat cars or anything like that we want to throw out there?
I do have a neat car. We can kind of go out of order. That I was actually traveling behind today. It was an Oldsmobile Aurora. I don't know if anyone remembers that car. So I guess it was like their large sedan of the mid-90s to the early 2000s.
Yep.
I was looking at it, and I was thinking, 90s cars, early 2000s cars, as we talked about in our last episode, they just didn't get a lot of love. They weren't that pretty, but here's a hot take. That car, that Oldsmobile Aurora, is better looking than any Aston Martin of the 90s.
Of the 90s.
Of the 90s.
Okay, I was saying, good that you qualified that.
I mean, maybe it's not saying a lot, but what do you think?
Actually, the Oldsmobile Aurora was a pace car in Indianapolis one year.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. Oh, in the early days of the Indy Racing League, when there was the split between Champ Car and IRL in the mid-90s, General Motors branded their engines for the IndyCar series as Oldsmobiles.
That's interesting. And they picked the Aurora.
And they picked the Aurora to be the pace car as part of the whole grand marketing scheme.
Sure.
I had never had a problem with it. I mean, for a 90s car, it looked okay, I guess.
Pretty good, especially the front has that super weird pinched 90s thing. It looks kind of like a cross-eyed Intrepid in the front. Yeah, but the back is actually, it's very nicely proportioned, it's very angular and almost a little futuristic.
It's got a nice booty.
Yeah, it does. That's the only thing.
Are you doing live research right now, Tristan?
Yeah, I don't get it, but okay.
You don't think so?
No.
That's all right. I mean, it's a 90s car.
It's neat because I've literally never heard of it until right now.
Oh, really?
So I don't know what I was like. What? So
learning something. Maybe you're not the only one. Maybe other listeners are just finding out about the Oldsmobile Aurora. You're welcome.
No one remembers Oldsmobile.
I do.
Besides the Cutlass Supreme.
I just don't remember the Aurora. I remember the Alero. The
Alero. That was a little version.
And that was by far for years in the early 2000s one of the best used car deals you could ever get.
Oh, for sure.
You could get one loaded for practically free.
Yes.
And they held up pretty well. The GM dealers kept servicing them, still do, as far as I know.
Yeah.
And they were really nice cars for not a lot of money.
That's very true.
If you could find one in good shape that wasn't abused by a college student.
Good luck.
Yeah, good luck with that.
And that was in the early 2000s, probably not anymore. But
I had some really awesome stats from the IAHS about highway crashes in this section too. I can't find them though. It was something astronomical. Like I think it was in 1982, more than 50% of all road deaths were due to blood alcohol.
Whoa! Wow.
They were wild in the 80s, and that's gone down to, I think it was 30% in about 94, and it's held steady since then. It's about 30%, 29% this last year.
Huh.
down from 50%.
Damn.
That's so bad.
The 80s were crazy.
Yeah.
Thank God we were born at the end of them.
Well,
Right.
That's
Because we wouldn't have made it through.
That's specifically blood alcohol. That's not drug related. That's not any.
Right.
That's all blood alcohol.
Whew.
They're going mad.
That's insane. I mean, it's still, even today, 30% is still pretty high. That's pretty ridiculous.
Don't
Of
drink and
all,
drive.
yeah, of all.
Do
traffic
not
fatalities.
drink and drive.
Everyone has a smartphone. Uber, Lyft,
Uber.
Call a friend.
call anybody.
There is no, you are not that lonely that you have 0 people you can call to come pick you up.
Right. Every
There's
little town has some kind of taxi. They just do. And
Watoma has one.
they do. A
One
specific
taxi.
drone bus. Yeah.
Taxi.
Yeah.
But it's
and
there.
a taxi.
So just do it. That's it.
PSA time. But yeah.
PSA. So that was, okay. I got slightly neater car news than an Oldsmobile Aurora.
I don't even want to hear it. What you got?
So I'm coming down an on-ramp onto the aforementioned Highway 16. And I'm getting to the end of the ramp and I'm looking, have my turn signal on because I'm a well-adjusted normal human being.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going about 65 because I'm at merging speed like a well-adjusted human being.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm looking for a gap. And I don't even see the car, but I hear it because it's so low. I have this inkling, like this little spidey sense that I can't move over right here. Because I just hear this, whoa, and I'm like, So I back off a little bit to let it get in front of me. It's an Aventador convertible.
Wow.
Yeah,
Here.
out here. Not done yet. And now I look in my mirror looking for a gap. Behind it is a Gallardo.
Jeez.
And behind that is that gorgeous royal blue brand new Acura NSX.
Ooh. Wow.
Yeah.
Here. In the
Here.
middle of sort of nowhere.
And they're not moving over to let me in, and they're also not speeding up. So once I finally found a gap, I passed all 3 of them at 70. Like I wasn't doing over the limit. They were just cruising. They could easily do 180, but they were just cruising at 62, all in a line on the right side. In the right-hand lane, they were not blocking the passing lane because they were also obviously well-adjusted drivers. So thanks, guys. And thanks for sharing your ultra-rare cool cars. The Gallardo, the middle car, had, it was white with, it was almost like a metallic candy apple rims.
Wow.
I mean, it was
That's pretty cool.
sharp.
Yeah.
It was nice.
I wonder.
And they're all in a line. They're going somewhere,
Yeah,
obviously.
I wonder what's going on.
Like, I don't know if there's no auto shows in and around like they were driving to, I don't think.
There could have been something in Milwaukee, I guess.
Maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah,
But it
Those
was,
auto shows.
that's right. If they went to an auto show, it would have just been those 3 dudes.
Exactly.
So, and they're younger dudes also. It wasn't like midlife crisis businessmen or anything like that.
Now, actually, I remember hearing something.
My thought was
about
either
their-
athlete or musician, but why would there be a musician in the middle of nowhere?
Possibly, but I do know that I've heard that there's an exotic car rental place based in Milwaukee.
Oh, so maybe there was like a bachelor party that was just joyriding or something.
That might have been why they were going so slow.
What a bachelor party that would have been. Ideas for both of y'all.
Yeah.
No pressure.
No pressure.
Yeah, exactly. I'm actually just thinking of that now. Like, my bachelor party should involve an exotic car
Should be
rental.
lit.
Yeah, that's going to be great. That's going to be great. So that's my neat car news.
I got nothing.
All right, then.
I got a rock. I've nothing. It's been the worst. I've been commuting up and down Capitol Drive,
And you haven't seen a thing.
and
on
not a
Capitol.
single thing. I mean,
A lot of dump trucks.
About the neatest thing happened to me when I was allowed to drive the company Range Rover the other day.
That's right.
And that was kind of cool. Had air conditioned seats. That was cool. I like air conditioned seats. I can tell you that. But that's about all I got.
And the Range Rover did not break in your time driving.
No, it did not.
Did it break immediately after?
I don't know. I locked it and ran away.
I don't want to be seen by this. It doesn't belong to me.
Nice.
All right. Well, fair enough. Let's get into this then.
Yeah. So, NASCAR. I don't get it. I mean, really, that's kind of where I'm coming from. I kind of had a little bit of an interest in NASCAR, but it was the 90s, and, it didn't really count. Everyone makes mistakes. It was like in that phase where I was also interested in wrestling. You know what I mean?
Who's your favorite wrestler?
Well, I mean, at the time it was The Rock. I also like Rey Mysterio, but
Ooh,
He's
okay.
back, you know.
Rey Mysterio?
Yeah.
At age 10 million?
I don't know, yeah, but
I could swear he was in his 40s in the 90s.
yeah, one of my former coworkers who's a big wrestling fan was super pumped.
Nice.
He's back.
Rey Mysterio has some bills to pay, apparently.
Yeah, I guess.
Retirement not going well for him.
But, so I guess to me, those two things have always been merged together mentally because that's kind of where they hit for me. There's something about NASCAR that's always rung as false to me or contrived, you know what I mean? And I don't know that that's necessarily reality, but I think it's a big reason why I don't have any interest in it. I feel like there's so much mechanically generated excitement or mechanically generated things you should be excited about, like Danica Patrick. But I mean, that's kind of one sense of why I don't really buy the NASCAR thing. That's probably the first biggest thing.
Well, I mean, what's now they don't go as far as like fixing results, obviously, like
course
wrestling did. But I mean,
let's be clear. Wrestling is acting.
right.
I mean, it just is.
Racing there is, no matter what you do, it's not, unless you're actually shooting a racing movie, it's not acting.
Right.
But NASCAR, like WWE, and to an extent, to its credit, and we'll get into the things I don't like about it later, but they are very concerned with the show. Mm-hmm. They're very concerned with the fan experience. You know, these are paying people coming through the gates, and we're going to give them the best damn show possible. Sometimes they go a little too far with that kind of stuff, I think. And we can get into that. But I can see where you make that connection because there is a bit of that they kind of inject in there, and we can get into that as we go.
But I think it's not exclusive to NASCAR or wrestling, or I think there's a lot of that in sport in general.
Sure.
So
what are your general impressions about NASCAR though? Just like in this moment, Tristan.
I mean, it doesn't bother me. I know NASCAR bugs some people. It exists peacefully in my brain as something I'm not entirely interested in. Yet we were kind of the genesis of this episode was a couple things, and one of them was we were kind of chilling before recording one of our podcasts in the previous weeks, and there was an Xfinity race on, and I was like, oh, I'm actually finding myself watching this. Yeah. So that's why I was kind of excited for this episode, because I'd like to find out more, and as a test, like, force myself to watch some, because I think I watched it when I was a kid, and when you're a kid, it's just cars kind of making you dizzy, going around in circles over and over and over again.
Right.
And if you don't happen to catch it when there's anything exciting going on, you're like, wow, this is super boring. I'm going to go play video games or something.
Yeah.
And you don't generate that interest. So I'm open to liking it because it doesn't bug me. But I don't really have many strong feelings on it other than my fear is it might be potentially boring. You know, that's really
you're not off base.
The biggest thing, and with a lot of motorsport, it's what culture are you going to be associating yourself with? Oof. Because I'm kind of in the middle of everything. You know, I don't find myself to be, you know, the same people that, you know, hang out at Le Mans. I also don't find myself to be the same people that hang out at Talladega. You know, so it's you know, I don't feel like I fit in most racing, so the fact that I'm not comfortable with the culture doesn't bug me either, because I don't really fit in anywhere. I just enjoy the racing, so I kind of put that all aside.
Okay,
that's fair.
Fair enough.
So what I know about the roots of NASCAR, could fit on the back of a stamp.
One word.
Bootleggers.
That's all I know.
That's about it. Yeah.
That's really all I know. Is that true, or is that some stupid urban myth?
No, it was true. I mean, when you're transporting things illegally across state lines, what these guys would do was modify their cars to make them faster so they could outrun the police. And they were to avoid the police, they were taking a lot of windy, dangerous back roads. So not only did they develop their mechanical skills, they also developed their driving skills rather quickly.
Well, a key to that was also they would do this without altering the exterior appearance of their car. So they'd add like hidden areas to hide stuff and make the engine faster without making the car look different.
Look any different, which is the key here. Actually, that's actually a really good point. Thanks for bringing that up. That must be a big postage stamp.
That's the extent of my knowledge.
So
bootleggers, no different. That's what's on there.
That's what's on there. That's your notes.
Bootleggers, stealth.
Yes, exactly.
That's essentially what it was. So, but the bootleggers all knew who the bootleggers were, and they knew who had the souped-up cars, so they would get to a farm field, a open prairie or whatever, or a piece of road late at night when there was no one out there, and they would see whose car was the best. And that was really the foundation of it. People were racing like dirt sprint cars and stuff like that, so these promoters started, or track owners started saying, well, why don't these guys come race? You know, they can paint a number on their car, and they can...
Sprint car racing is that old?
Yeah.
Sprint
car, USAC, yeah.
Like the ones with the one where Tony Stewart killed the guy?
No, not like I mean, yes, but not like those came later, but like the early era of sprint car racing, yeah.
Wow, I did not know that was that old.
It's been around for a while.
Crazy.
More things I don't know.
Yeah.
This is why,
this
is why we call the episodes Ask Dr. Nick.
Exactly. He knows.
The point is there were already established tracks for those. Yeah. So, let's put numbers on these souped up bootlegger cars and race them. Now the problem was some of these there wasn't like a sanctioned series. It was just one-off event here, one-off event there, and sometimes the promoters would get a little greedy and take a lot of the cut and not pay the drivers. Oops. So Bill France came along, and it was almost like he was going to unionize it. He was going to form a sanctioning body with a set of rules, and he was going to control the schedule, negotiate with the promoters, and basically act as a representative for all these drivers. And that's where NASCAR came to be. And they called it NASCAR, National Association for Stock Car Auto Racing, because, like you said, it looks just like a street car, like any other car on the road. A lot of these guys would actually drive their car to the track with numbers on it and sponsors and everything, race it, and then drive it back home if they could.
That's the true American dream.
Run what you brung.
Literally, run what you brung.
Is that a saying?
That's a saying.
Yeah.
Is that a saying? Wow.
Also prevalent in drag racing.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Okay, I can see that.
Yeah. So, and then, of course, as it started gaining traction, the folks in Detroit started catching wind of this. Like, hey, if we build sleeker, faster race cars that these NASCAR guys win with, that literally looks just like a car we put in our dealership. So then the manufacturer started getting involved.
So this would have been what decade approximately?
Probably in the 50s.
50s, 60s, sure.
And then there you go. You get your first stars. You get, Junior Johnson, Richard Petty, David Pierce, all the way up through the Allisons and Earnhardts. And here we are today, the largest, most popular form of motorsports in the country.
So, I mean, you mentioned names. Driver names in NASCAR is something that I don't think, if you've never even watched NASCAR, you know the name Jeff Gordon, you know the name Dale Earnhardt, you know Danica Patrick, and you know, what's a good one? Tony Stewart, and, I mean, these are names that people know even if they've never watched NASCAR, and it seems like, judging from the actual NASCAR page, I actually went to that today, they are pushing drivers / personalities more than the cars they're driving.
Absolutely.
Is that kind of their thing?
It's absolutely their thing. Then I think that's one of the reasons that they're so popular is because of the fact that they push the people. You hear about Indy cars and you hear about it's the fastest, it's the sexiest, the sleekest. People don't know who's driving them.
No.
People
not.
I did a blog about that. Scott Dixon is probably one of the greatest drivers of this generation, and no one knows who he is. He can go anywhere without any entourage, without any, disguises, fake. No one's going to know, and he doesn't care because he's that personality.
Right.
He's a quiet dude, but, if he were in NASCAR, he wouldn't be able to leave his house because they would push the person. They would put him on the commercials. They would, the sponsors would be more engaged. Dixon, for instance, with his run at Ganassi Racing, Target sponsored him for 16 straight years.
Woo.
That entire time, there was not one Scott Dixon t-shirt for sale in Target.
Or even a commercial featuring
Scott Dixon.
That's okay. Yeah, no, I see that.
Why not?
Yeah.
He's the lead bullet in not just Chip Ganassi's gun, but the entire series.
Yeah.
Why not? So NASCAR is great at that. It's all about the personalities. They had this, this mantra they came out with a few years ago called "Have at it, boys," where they're going to be a little bit more lax. They're not going to penalize guys if they get in each other's faces, if emotions run high after races, or if they make a little extra contact on the track. They want to create hero versus villain because that's what gets eyeballs.
I mean, it is a little bit, the WWE.
That's what I said. It's about the show.
Yeah.
It's about the show. Kyle Busch is probably he's pound for pound the most talented stock car racer I think who ever lived. He's also an asshole.
On purpose or as a curated person?
Well, he's an asshole.
Yeah.
Just by nature, and he realizes that nobody likes him, but he keeps winning, so he embraces it. He loves to be the villain.
So taking the heel role, more or less.
He loves it.
So
People will show up to a racetrack to boo Kyle Busch.
Well, I was going to say, how do these personalities tie in with win totals? Do they push the people who are winning, or is it kind of the other way around, where the people who are popular or made popular, if they start to lag behind in pace or they don't pick up wins, they stop pushing the personality? You know what I mean?
It depends. It really depends because, I think a really good example of that, you brought her up already, is Danica Patrick.
Mm-hmm.
She was popular because she was a good-looking woman. She's not dead. She is a good-looking woman who was more competitive than any other woman who's ever tried it.
She won stuff, for sure.
Yes, she wasn't a terrible driver by any means, but if she was a guy and had her record, no one would care.
Mm-hmm.
No one would care. But then you see someone like, let's see. Someone like let's look at like a Casey Kane, who came up through sprint cars and stuff. Tony Stewart kind of discovered him at local sprint car races,
Sure.
recommended him to different people. He got into NASCAR, had a huge rookie season. He's almost 40 now. He still looks like he's 15. He's got like this baby face, blue eyes. All the ladies loved him.
Uh-huh.
He was super popular. He got a ride with Hendrick Motorsports. He was Jeff Gordon and Jimmy Johnson's teammate. He won a bunch of races, and then his performance started falling off a little bit. And he lost the ride at Hendrick. And now he's with kind of a mid-tier team, and like you'd be lucky if they mention him once in the broadcast. You'd be lucky if they interview him. Opposite of that would be right now Kyle Larson. 25-year-old kid came into Cup Series a few years ago. I think this is like his 4th or 5th year now. He started real young. Like he was in there at 20. Like he was one of those prodigy type kids.
Yeah.
And he struggled for a while. And I was like, well, yeah, there's Kyle Larson. He's there. He's getting better. He qualified.
Doing okay.
He qualified 19th today. That was better than last week.
But wait, so he was 20 in the Cup.
The top level.
Well, we're gonna have to talk about that next. Finish the story, then we'll talk about the breakdown.
Yeah, we'll talk about the breakdown. So Larson getting better and better and better and better. Now at the age of 24 or 25, he's competing for wins. He's in the top 5 every single week. Damn near every commercial features in some point a number 42 car with Kyle Larson in it.
Sure.
So they push the performance, they push the popular people.
Okay.
And it a weird turn it's been taking the last couple of years because a lot of the big names have been retiring.
Right.
Gordon retired. Stewart retired. Dale Earnhardt Jr.
Yeah, so Junior just retired.
Junior just retired at the end of last year.
I was picturing his face like that guy.
Jimmy Johnson is getting older. He's in his late 40s. He's a 7-time champ. He's a superstar. He's not going to be around much longer. So what they've started to do now, much to the ire of aforementioned asshole Kyle Busch, is they started promoting these younger kids. Mm-hmm. And Busch had come out, and maybe he feels like he missed the boat because he's winning so much, but he's the villain.
Sure.
And they haven't really pushed him. But he's coming out and saying, why are they pushing these 20-year-old kids who haven't won anything? You know, why are they promoting an Eric Jones, for instance, who's 21? He actually just won his first race last week, but up until that point hadn't won, and like he's on all the commercials. But I think it's a marketing strategy because all their big names are retiring. They need to push the names that are going to be here for 10, 15 more years, right?
Sure they do.
So they think about it. They pick and choose who they want to really push. It's interesting to watch from a guy who's got a marketing degree. Like it's interesting for me to kind of see their strategies here.
All right, so you did mention at the beginning and just then that NASCAR as a name doesn't just encompass the NASCAR that everyone thinks about.
Correct.
It's not just all of those big names racing on oval tracks, and they have a bunch of different series and stuff, right? Under the NASCAR name. It's all NASCAR.
So under NASCAR sanctioning, yes. So NASCAR is the big sanctioning body. Actually, side note, NASCAR actually owns IMSA too.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Whoa!
Yeah,
Their corporate offices, IMSA's corporate office is in the same building as NASCAR's in Daytona, Florida.
Yep.
Anyway, so NASCAR as a whole, I mean, they have it just like, I don't know, like baseball is, right? They have developmental leagues.
Sure.
So, you know, baseball has single A, double A, triple A, winter leagues, all that kind of stuff. NASCAR kind of has the same thing. Cactus League.
My favorite.
That's the best sounding one.
Cactus League. So NASCAR has 2 regional series. So K&N Air Filters, you know, that company sponsors it. So it's the K&N East and the K&N West. So it kind of splits at the Mississippi River. And they're like a step above like a super late model like you'd see at your local short track. They're
Sure.
You know, a little bit bigger, a little bit heavier, a little bit bigger tire, a little more power type of thing, but they race at those same tracks. They'll race on a road course, but those will be the only tracks they'll go to that are over a mile. Mm-hmm. So if it's an oval, it's going to be a mile or less. And you know, usually they don't even like accompany the big series to any tracks unless it's a road course. Like they might race at like the West Series might race at Sonoma when the Cup Series goes there as a support race, but that's really the only time you'll see them there on the same weekend.
So it's like your base level. NASCAR.
Really base level. Like you just got out of super late models. Some NASCAR team thinks you're talented and, you know, we're going to sign you to a development deal. Here, you're going to go, oh, you're based out of Las Vegas. You're going to run the West Series for us, you know. From there, you get into the national touring, like the 3, I guess you can call them major series.
Yeah.
The first one is the trucks.
Right. Forgot about the truck.
Right. Those pesky trucks.
They run, so...
Who watches? I mean...
How the conversations actually went, I think this was more of a manufacturer play.
Sure.
So, like, General Motors at the time was Dodge and Ford, and all these guys were involved in, you know, Cup and what's now the Xfinity Series, and they wanted a way to market their trucks. Mm-hmm. So let's put a truck body on one of these race car chassis,
sure,
and let's race the trucks. And I mean, it's been around since the mid '90s. It's honestly like when my dad and I go to Daytona every February, like a father-son kind of pilgrimage thing down to the 500, and more often than not, we come away from the weekend saying the truck race on Friday night was the best show of the weekend.
Who races in that now? I mean, does Dodge still participate?
Chevrolet. It's Chevrolet with the Silverado, Ford with the F-150, and Toyota with the Tundra.
Yeah.
Toyota, of course.
So they have three brands in it. Well, it's 3 brands all the way through. It's Chevy. There's no Dodge. It's Chevy, Ford, Toyota all the way up through. Yeah.
Huh. Okay.
So the truck series is kind of that next step, and then you get into and then you get into Tristan showing us the weather radar. We're about to get...
Sorry. Yeah, sorry for the interruption. My phone and my watch and my other phone are all exploding right now because we're going to get hit with some weather. But
we are going to get blasted in the next 20 minutes.
Yeah, hopefully the power doesn't go out.
Yeah, let's hope not. Anyway. Is that thunder I'm hearing now? Anyway, so from the trucks you have what is essentially the AAA version, like the step before the big series. It was called a lot of different things. It was called Grand National. It was called the Busch Series for a long time. Now it's called the Xfinity Series.
This year.
It's been Xfinity for...
It's been that for a while.
3 or 4 years at least. But it was Busch Series for a long time.
Phrasing.
And then they race on all the same tracks that the big guys do. They're usually very, very rarely, maybe once or twice a year. Actually, when they come to Road America, it'll be one of the only times where they have like a standalone, where they're the premier series.
Yeah.
You know, if the Cup Series is on a Sunday, they're going to be on a Saturday. This weekend, as we're recording this, for instance, Cup is running Saturday night, so they're probably racing right now as we're recording on a Friday night. Their races are never more than 300 miles. And compared to a Cup car, it's a little smaller wheelbase, a little smaller tire, less horsepower. It's just, again, a stepping stone before you get into the big series, which is now sponsored by Monster Energy. It's the Monster Energy Cup.
I kept calling it the Sprint Cup. That was what it was.
It was Sprint Cup. Before
Winston
that, it was
Cup.
Winston Cup forever.
Oh, wow, that's right.
Winston Cup was from like the late 70s through almost 2005.
Yeah, before the tobacco advertising ban.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
only cigarette you can tap out of the carton.
So, and that, the big series, they're the ones that you hear about: the Daytona 500, the Southern 500, the Brickyard 400, 36, 37, 38-ish races a year. It's a grueling freaking schedule.
So many races, and they're all what starting at 300? Is that the short? 200?
300 is the shortest for Cup. From 300.
Buh.
Well, now the road races are probably less than 300,
Right.
just because they're big and slow, and it takes them a long time to get around a road course. So if you wanted to run 300 miles at a road course, you'd be there for like 4 days.
which minor announcement, we will be seeing them at Road America. We can report on exactly how lumbering they may be after
I
that.
can't wait.
It's
to
I'm
see
excited.
it.
I'm excited.
They're big, loud, noisy V8s. They're 3,800-pound
Pounds,
tanks that are not designed to turn or stop. And they're
Racing
gonna-
patents around Road America.
What's that going to be like through the kink? That's what it's just going to be a dead stop and then a very
slow
right
rotation,
hand.
like they're on a turntable, and then they just go again.
I
No.
have very serious concerns about the carousel
Oh,
myself.
this is going to be as they hit all the bumps.
Yeah, it's actually
Like you're racing
the first time Xfinity went up there. That was probably 4 or 5 years ago. My dad and I went to check it out, and the craziest thing is the noise.
Yeah.
Those big throaty V8s. Like what the Corvette sounds like.
Oh, yeah.
In IMSA.
The whole field.
Imagine 40 of them through the trees, which is like a tunnel.
Yeah, I'm
like
gonna
it's
bring earplugs and my earmuffs.
Yeah,
I'm
bring
gonna
all
both,
sorts
too.
of ear protection. But yeah, so minimum 300 miles on an oval. Most of them are 500, 400 or 500. There is one race, Memorial Day, the Coke 600. That's their longest one. They do that one time. So
wait, sorry, because I don't know shit. Is the 300, 400, 500, is that miles or lap count?
depends on where you go.
That's what I figured.
Yes.
God
So
damn it.
like on a 1 mile oval, they'll call it a 300, and it'll be 300 laps or 300 miles.
Of course.
If you go to a track like Kansas or Las Vegas, which are a mile and a half, they'll call it a 400, but on a mile and a half track, that's 266, 7-ish laps.
Right.
If you go to a place like Bristol or Martinsville, which are shorter, a half mile or shorter, they call it a 500, but that's because they run 500 laps at a short track.
So what about the big one? What about the Daytona 500?
200 laps on a 2.5 mile track.
Okay.
500 miles.
Sure.
Is Daytona the largest oval? Or is that Talladega?
Talladega's bigger by 0.1. It's
'cause they-
2.6.
Of course, they had to.
Woo!
And Talladega's also banked higher.
That's what I've seen mentioned on car shows and stuff, is people trying to stand on the banking.
Yeah.
And,
They can't.
Yeah.
They can't.
Yeah.
You have to crawl up it on your hands and knees. If you're in the inside, well, Daytona too, if you're in the infield looking out,
You're in a bowl.
you see the roofs of the cars. You don't see anything else. They're up there, really, really sideways. It's crazy.
That kind of sounds exciting. So, I mean, as someone who's been to a couple NASCAR races, is NASCAR the kind of thing that you have to see in person, like hockey, to actually appreciate it?
I think any form of motorsport is. It doesn't matter which one you're going to see. It's
True. For us, the question might better be positioned as, for people like us, is it something you have to go to enjoy? So, for example, myself, obviously I can better appreciate a football game by going to it, but I still enjoy watching it on TV.
I think football's actually worse when you go and see it in person. Is that a hot take?
Sure.
Well, no, but you just don't like you don't you don't like big crowds. You don't go see
But
movies
it's not
either.
just that. Football.
You don't go see concerts. You don't go see movies.
Concerts are terrible.
Because?
Football in person, because of all the people.
See?
Football in person, because of the TV timeout, the advent of the TV timeout, it's just so much sitting there with nothing to do but look at the same graphic on the on the Megatron at the
Megatron.
Megatron, the Jumbotron.
Yo, I told you it's been a long week. I'm sticking with it. I'm the Megatron.
Decepticons.
Look, I'm one of those people who say no matter what, if it's concerts or sporting events or racing, if you can go see it live, go see it live. And that's just the way I feel about all of it. So, but I'm also one who does not mind large crowds or being out in the sun a lot.
That's my problem.
So,
Fair.
I'm a vampire.
I think, yeah, I mean, absolutely go, before you make a final judgment, go see it live and see what you think.
All right, so those are all the cups. I'm just trying to get a lay of the land here because, I mean, saying we're going to cover NASCAR in one podcast episode isn't exactly realistic.
It's disingenuous.
Yeah, but there are some genuine things that I still struggle to get past with NASCAR, and it is exactly the... first part was the performance art of it, which I think you've explained nicely. I get it.
We can get into some of the stuff that I don't like about that too, but...
Well, then this is maybe that, because the other thing that trips me up about NASCAR is the fact that, yes, the races are incredibly long, which is good or bad, but it is all on this oval. It's the same turn. It's this, it's that. Yes, I understand that it's not just a left-hand corner. I understand that it is extremely technical, blah, 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 blah. I don't give a shit. That's still really boring. You're still just going left. You're still explicating the fact that you're only going left.
That is true.
I mean, is there any merit to that line of thought at all?
Here is my one thought. When I have a couple of ones that definitely spring to mind. You gave us the outline earlier to think about, and there were a couple points that even without having some explanation from Dr. Nick, that jumped to mind just in some of the stuff I kind of learned while we were watching it the other day.
Oh yeah.
I think the fact that they're only making one type of turn, there are different, obviously, positions on the track, positions relative to other cars, setup stuff, things like that. And I think that is where you find the interest. So you watch how the cars interact with other cars, not necessarily how they interact with the track. Like when we're watching like IMSA races, especially because they're also can be quite long races.
Right.
We're looking at 6 hours, 10 hours, 12 hours, 24. To one that I haven't been to, but Nick and I have been to 12, 10, 6, 4, 2.5.
Yeah.
These are long races, and the cars are far from each other.
Yes.
So this is a question of endurance and how does the car interact with the track. I think NASCAR is a test of how do the drivers interact with other drivers and how do the cars interact with other cars. And that's what I started to watch right about the time we were done watching it when we were watching it the other day.
No, I totally agree.
I think that might be where the interest is found.
Well, it is technical in the fact that probably doesn't really matter which track you're going. Well, maybe Daytona or Talladega because they have long straightaways, but we'll say 90% of the tracks on their calendar, even if it is an oval, they're turning more than they're going straight.
Yes.
Right.
So, like at a road course, like if you watch IMSA, they're in the corner, they brake, they downshift, they're out. It's maybe 2 or 3 seconds, and they're back in a straight line. Whereas in a NASCAR race, they enter a corner in turn 1, and it's probably 8, 9, 10 seconds before they start to straighten that wheel out again. It's the setups and the technical aspect to get a car to stick that long, that well for that long. There's a lot of thought. There's a lot of smart people doing this. It's not just like good old boys like bootleggers anymore. There's a lot of engineering that goes into it. And he's exactly right. You see these guys as the tires degrade, as the fuel load wears off, the balance of the car changes. They're moving around the racetrack. They're not just hugging the white line anymore. They're moving up a lane, or they're starting up high and diming the corner back low for a later apex. So, and then...
How does that play against everyone else and their strategy?
I'm trying to pass someone. I caught him running the outside line the entire time. I get to him. well, shit, he's running the outside line. I can't get around him if I run the same line as him. Now what do I do? So now there's the strategy in it. Do I try to dive bomb it to the inside and slide up in front of him? Do I just knock him out of the way? Like, what do you do here? That's where, and I think that's why a lot of people watch, because, like, people equate passing to action.
Yes.
When it comes to a race.
Right.
There are, well, I mean, we can do another episode on IndyCar, which I think is way better, but they're relatively speaking.
Look for episode 2 of Ask Dr. Nick
Yeah,
on
exactly.
IndyCar.
There's going to be more passing generally in a NASCAR race than any other form of motorsport. Mm-hmm. And it may not be for the lead, but you could have one lap. There's going to be, at one point there'll be 2 guys side by side for second for 10 straight laps because one guy can't clear the other. Mm-hmm. And then they'll get clear, and then all of a sudden, oh shit, they're 3 wide for 7th. There's 3 guys going at it. Like, and you can look somewhere and find a point of interest, even as the field gets spread out. So that's, I think, what the appeal to a lot of people is that there's always something going on.
Well, when we were watching that Xfinity Series race, I don't know what track they were on.
That was Daytona.
It was Daytona. It was Daytona, folks. So we were watching the Xfinity Series on there, and at the end, when it got interesting, they were entering all of those races are sprints, right?
If you call 300 miles a sprint, yeah.
Well, they were in like a phased sprint.
Yeah. So that's one of those, you were talking about how, or I think it was Tristan, like, oh my gosh, this is getting boring.
Yeah.
Because these races are, when you were a kid or whatever, like, because these races are getting so long, or a lot of time, like, cars don't brake like they used to. They're,
right.
There's not engines being blown. The drivers are way better, so there's less people spinning out because the overall depth of talent is better. So before, when there used to be a bunch of yellow flags, there's just not anymore. Mm-hmm. So the races could get real drawn out and train-like, and a lot of times people are resigning to, okay, you know what? We're 100 miles in. We have 400 to go. Let's just kind of sit and cruise until, mile 350 or 400, and then we'll kick it back into gear. Let's save the equipment. And people were like, all right, this is getting really lame. So what NASCAR has done, I think I actually kind of like this to their credit. They break the races up into stages. So
stages, right.
There's mandatory. They actually throw a different version of a checkered flag. It's not the black and white. It's a green and white.
Huh.
But that signifies the end of a stage, and they actually award points based on where you're running at the end of the stages. So it forces you to race hard
the whole race.
and compete the entire time. It may only be lap 40 out of 200, but this stage ends next lap. If I get this guy in front of me, that's an extra 2 points, towards the championship. So I actually like that because it keeps them racing hard the entire time, and they don't just fall back into like a cruise mode and just ride it out for 2 hours.
It's not night at Le Mans.
Exactly.
Do they do that only in Xfinity?
They do it in every. Not the regional ones, but trucks, right. Xfinity, and Cup all have stages.
Huh.
Well, I mean, that makes it exciting.
I'm actually more interested now.
Right. That does make it exciting, and it does lead for interesting racing. And yes, I will say, as we were getting into the third of the 3 stages, there were some interesting moments on the track, but the thing that kept bothering me about it, yes, there are some interesting passes. Yes, it's one thing to watch a guy go around, 3 guys go around for second place for 4 laps, and suddenly one gets in front of the other. But the fact that pass was made is due to something as minute as the guy on the outside drifting 10 feet up the track at the start of 3 corners ago. That's not that interesting. It's just mechanical.
But that is because that shows how inch perfect they have to be if they want to get it right.
I guess it's just kind of a bummer. I think.
So how would you rather have a pass take place?
I'd rather have a pass take place like they do in IMSA, where yes, it is a matter of precision on the part, on the part of the driver, especially in spec series. But there's also so many other little things that play into it on a course that has corners that go both ways, up and down hills, all that stuff. All those little things affect different drivers differently. And as dumb as it sounds, that there are drivers out there who corner better to the right than to the left. And, and it's the same thing the other way. So, especially in series where there's diversity of car types, engines, displacements, all that stuff, you get a lot of interesting racing in the corners, which you do in all racing, but also there's drama on the straightaways. And I feel like in NASCAR, there's drama that tends to take place on the straightaways based off of an error that was made a long time ago that was so minute you didn't even see it in the broadcast. Suddenly it's just like, brr, there go the two other cars. It's just like, oh, that sucks. He made a mistake a couple laps ago.
Well, that just shows how talented they have to be to get it all right.
I suppose it just
Like,
seems there's no
so you
there's
can
no
appreciate-
true drama to it, I guess is my complaint.
Well, that's why they did the stages, which I think helps, and that's why they that's why they added the whole green white checkered finish a while back as well. So a NASCAR race can go beyond the advertised distance if it's going to finish under yellow.
Only if it's going to finish under yellow. Like they don't just add these on for fun.
No, it's not like soccer, which is like, oh, extra time.
Okay, all right.
That would be funny though.
That's what I thought it was.
You get to your 500th mile or lap or whatever. They're like, actually, we had a bunch of yellows, so we're gonna add 9 laps. There we go.
What is soccer? Where I don't understand why they add time. At some point,
We're not going to get into that. We're not going to get into that
because they don't stop for penalties.
19 more minutes.
We're not gonna get into that. But so if a yellow flag comes out with like 4 laps to go in a race, and there's no way they can get it all cleaned up, get everybody lined up before the scheduled race distance, they will say, okay, we're just going to keep going until we get it cleaned up, and we're going to go 2 laps. We're going to give it a green, we're going to give them a white flag for 1 lap to go, and we're going to end it.
Is it always 2?
It's always 2.
Okay.
The white flag controls the end of the race.
Right.
So if you take the white, the next flag ends it, whether it's a yellow or the checkered. But if something happens between the green and the white, they'll just keep doing it. And that to me is way too manufactured, and it's way too stupid, because that's where they're going after the show. And I get you want to give fans a green flag finish. Sometimes it just doesn't happen. It just doesn't happen. Sometimes you might get 2 races a year out of 38 that'll finish under yellow. Maybe. So is it really worth it? Because, they're talking about we want to save the team owners money. We want to make a lower cost of entry. But we're going to keep running until potentially everybody writes off a $500,000 car.
That's what we saw in the Xfinity series we were watching.
Yes.
We saw
20 car pileup?
Yeah, and then immediately after that, we saw another one.
Right. So they want to save team owners money. They're making them lay off people who, to travel with less people to the races, perform pit stops with less people to save them that $60,000 salary for one guy. But, because we did 7 green-white checkers to try to please the fans, you also had to write off a $500,000 car. Like, how much sense does that make? And also safety. Like,
right.
If you keep letting them run and keep letting them crash, at some point somebody's going to get hurt.
At some point, wrecked cars turn into wrecked drivers.
Yes.
And that's
so.
Yeah.
That's one thing. And then they also have the playoff system. Ugh. I don't know if you know about this.
We have time.
Okay.
No. I would be interested in hearing about that. I know nothing about it, but I know that people complain about it.
So
I know
this is the Matt Kenseth rule, actually. Wisconsin.
Is that honestly what it's called?
Well, people from Wisconsin call it that because he's from Wisconsin, and he won the championship in the Cup Series by winning 1 race. But he was just super consistent. He finished 2nd, he finished 4th, he finished 7th, he finished 2nd, he finished 4th, where other people were finishing 15th. So someone may have won more, but they also finished 30th a couple of times.
Sure.
He went through the whole season, super consistent, won 1 race, won the championship. They said, nah, we're going to put more emphasis on winning.
But that's racing, though.
Exactly. That's what I'm trying to get at.
He was playing like sabermetrics NASCAR.
Yes.
Base hits.
Yeah, base hit's going to get you in. So what they did was they have 36 or whatever races. The first 26 are considered the regular season. The last 10 are now considered the playoffs. If you win at any point in the first 26, you are locked in. You are locked into the playoffs. You have to win to be locked into the playoffs. So if you don't win in the first 26 races, you have no shot at the championship. even if you win the last 10 in a row, you're still not eligible.
Or even if you were second in every race.
If you were second in every race.
I mean...
Now, here's the deal. Are 26 different people going to win? No.
Right.
So it's whoever wins, and then they take 16 drivers. So if 12 people win, the top 4 point scorers that haven't won will get in at the tail end, and they're eligible as well.
And this is on top. All of this is on top of an already established point system.
Yes.
Oh my god.
Yep. And then in the playoffs, after every 3 races, they knock people out.
Okay, I mean that can be exciting.
So there's 16 cars, then there's 12, and then there's 8, and then there's 4 at the championship race. 1 race, 4 drivers are eligible. Whoever finishes in the front wins.
The vaunted
chase that I've heard about.
This is the chase.
Oh,
Okay.
They don't call it the chase anymore. Now they just call it the playoffs.
Okay.
It's rebranded.
Got it.
I can't keep up with it. I can't
Yeah.
keep up with the way they're rebranding this.
I don't like that
honestly.
either. I think racing is a full season thing. Like
I think it has to be.
like
Playoffs?
Thank you.
Don't
I've
talk
been
about
thinking
playoffs.
that the whole time.
Playoffs.
But
Right.
here's the counterpoint to that.
it adds drama.
Sort of, but what I was
So does high school.
But what I was thinking about actually is F1, where they're so strict on the points.
Yes.
I mean, it's that thing where an F1 driver can win the championship halfway through the season by finishing 19th or some dumb shit like that. You know what I mean? It's Senna crashing Prost out in the first corner
Of the last race.
Yeah,
Because even if he loses, if Prost doesn't get any points either, he wins.
which by the way is one of the greatest moments in all of racing.
Oh,
I
absolutely.
mean, let's not try to downplay that, but
Miss you, Ayrton.
I feel like points alone can be a little boring for that reason. You know, Lewis Hamilton winning his millionth championship 4 races before the end of the season, and you know it's just not close. Something like that is not that fun.
If you want to beat him, go faster. Like that. I mean,
It's racing.
it's racing. That's what it's about. Like he
Hey,
He
you
kick-
want to beat him? Go faster.
he kicked your ass this year. Sorry. I mean,
know.
and they also have this. So if you don't make my thing is if you don't make the championship chase or playoff, whatever you call it, why bother showing up?
I have no idea.
Like you're already paid with your sponsors and TV money and all that kind of stuff. The race purses, besides like Daytona, really don't mean that much.
Right.
Like you're still spending way more than you're gonna get. If you didn't make the playoffs, odds are you're not gonna finish up to earn your money back anyway.
True.
Why even bother? Why not just let those 16 go out and do 10 races? Like it just does. It makes no sense to me.
I actually have no.
I have no rebuttal
I
to
have
that.
no.
Because they're all racing, and somebody who's 38th in points could spin out and hit a championship leader in a knockout race, and now he doesn't make the. Like, now he doesn't get to keep going. Like, I mean, that's the drama side of it. That's what they're pushing. You know, that's the show part of the sport. But I think it dumbs it down.
As much as we may or may not, take it or leave it on raw points, but I mean that does indicate, average performance. It's like, it's like, okay, you have consistently done well enough to earn the most points over this race series. Therefore, you're
You're the champion.
You're the champion.
Mm-hmm.
There are these many things on offer. You've garnered the
most
majority,
yeah.
and therefore you win.
It's
simple, and it allows people to continue going the whole season.
Make a shrink that down to just a single race. To finish first, there's not a time you have to beat besides the time of the other people.
Right.
You can take as long as you want, as long as you're the first one across the line. Whether you do it in 20 minutes or 4 hours, if you're still the first there, what does it matter? So if you at the end of the year, it doesn't matter if you've won 30 races out of the 36 or you've won 1. Here's how many points are on offer. If you get the most of them, you're the champion. It's that simple.
It seems like it should be.
It's like life.
But I can understand why. I can understand that there's an appeal, especially to Americans, of their not possibly being a winner until the very last race, until the very last moment. Then it makes it clutch,
Right, exactly. That's what they're selling it. And here's another point we got to get in about. I know we're running out of time. NASCAR has always been branded as and especially because the beginnings of it were pretty humble, right? The everyman sport. This is the sport for the regular guys. Formula One, the open wheel stuff, kind of rich, bougie playboy dudes,
All
right?
those Europeans.
Right. These are, the factory workers, the butchers, the guys working road
The
construction.
bakers, the candlestick makers.
Yeah, this is exactly what I was thinking.
Who?
Well, I mean, Home Depot, Lowe's,
Right.
Viagra, Maxim.
Yeah.
Right.
Those are your sponsors.
Exactly. It's
Menards gets in.
Napa, Napa Auto Parts,
Everything.
Mountain Dew. Everybody drinks Mountain Dew. Like Monster Energy sponsors the whole damn series. You see Monster like crazy all over. Whoever it's
Every beer. Every single one.
every beer, every single beer. Miller Lite, Bud, whatever. So it's
Tide.
Tide.
Wait.
Uh,
M&M's.
M&M's, exactly.
Snickers.
So it's the Everyman sport sponsored by the Everyman brands sponsored. That's part of the appeal. And then like stock car, this is the car. Now we know it's not.
I mean, yeah.
They were far away from that, but that was the whole idea, right? Like, I drive a Ford Mustang to the racetrack to watch Ford Mustangs race on the racetrack. Now, it's not as real as the Ford Mustangs in IMSA
That we watch at
that
the
we
racetrack.
watch at the
Actual
racetrack,
Ford Mustang.
but that's part of the appeal. Like, yes, IMSA is more stock than a stock car in NASCAR, but
Do we have time to do one more thing based off of that?
Yeah.
Good.
where are we at time-wise?
It's about an hour. Got about 10, 15
Alright,
minutes.
So
tops.
here's the thing. Here's the thing that I think actually bothers me the most. It directly tied into what you're saying. Do the car brands actually matter? And then on the back of that, why is the new Super race car so ugly?
The Super race car is ugly because the Supra is ugly.
Well, I mean, that's definitely part of it.
But
That's why they won't take the cam off, by the way, in case anyone
Yeah.
is wondering. They know that car's ass ugly.
It's insisting to have the lights off.
Uh-huh. But
it's very insecure.
Yeah.
But the NASCAR looks even worse. It looks like they just duct taped and the Mustang looks terrible too. Like they taped a Mustang face onto the body of an old Camry with big ass tires.
Yeah, that's basically what they do. So
It's all stickers anyway.
I know. I know. So that's my question. Does it really matter? Are they actually different?
So they are different in the sense that for some of the aerodynamic pieces, basically where the air goes over the top. So the hood, the roof, and the trunk lid have to be based on the actual road car.
Based on.
Well, it has to have the.
is what
well,
worries me.
Well, it's not made out of the same material that's
Clearly.
on your street
What is
car.
it like?
It's molded from the same shape.
Interesting.
Based on a true story.
Yeah, essentially. The engine block, not any of the other performance pieces, but the block has to be from that manufacturer. So if you run a Camry body, you have to have a Toyota,
V8
made
there.
block. So the aerodynamics matter, the engine block matters, and really it's more of what's going on in-house. You have these bigger teams with more resources that can spend time on engineers to work on like shock packages, spring rates, the new, what they can go to test more in the wind tunnel, like which mounting points to hang a body on a chassis is going to make a bigger difference, those types of things. So no, the cars are not the same. There are haves and have-nots, but it doesn't necessarily matter about the brand.
Right.
And as much as they still try to market it, there's nowhere you can go to find a rear-wheel drive, 900 horsepower, 4-speed Camry. Like, it's just not going to happen.
What I was actually thinking
Or
about,
any of those.
does Toyota make any car with that V8, with a V8? They make the trucks that must,
Yeah, Tundras. And,
yeah, the trucks must have
Yeah.
a V8
Yeah.
available.
Yeah.
Tundras.
And again, it's not the same. Obviously, the horsepower is jacked up to do a lot of other stuff, with
Right,
it, but
of
it's just
course.
literally the basic piece of iron that the cylinders go into have to be stock block.
But I'm just thinking, Avalon is their biggest car, right?
Yeah, that's a V6.
It's a V6.
Right?
I mean, that's a little disingenuous.
But they're also not going to go out there with an Avalon V6 and win any races either, so...
I know. It's just that seems like such a little nitpick thing.
So-
Like
so-
the hood's based on.
Well, I mean, that's how. Yeah, I mean, look.
And to their credit, the new Super race car looks stupid because it kind of
Looks like
a
the Supra, right? So the things that are kind of hanging you up, get past the fact that it's an oval. We know that they're not really stock cars. We can just forget about that. And
it's an American it's an American spec series with door handle to door handle racing.
appreciate the driving talent, appreciate the strategy and the engineering that goes into making a car that is 3,800 pounds and doesn't want to stop or turn, actually stop or turn quite well.
I'd say door handle, but they don't have doors either.
But they paint the door handles in the wraps.
They do, so they can race fake door handle to fake door handle.
So I think the thing is you have to we know what it's not. We can get past that. Try to appreciate it for what it is, which is what I try to do. Yes, I know I'm not going to go buy a Camaro like that or a Toyota Camry like that, and I know.
Although if I could, I would definitely do it.
But
yeah, crap.
But just appreciate it for what it is, which they've done a really good job. Now they've missed the mark with playoffs and those types of things, but they've done a really good job at marketing personalities to the public and making sure that the show is a spectacle. They're doing what they can to make it more interesting because they know the races are long. Mm-hmm. Like, we know it's long. We got to make it more interesting for the people who pay pretty good amounts of money to go to a race, with their family and sit there. So just take it for what it is, man. And we're going to go up to Road America, and you're going to see it firsthand, and we'll see what you have to say after that.
That I think is going to be a real moment of truth because, it's the best track in the world, obviously, we all know that, with maybe the racing I'm least interested in the whole world on it. The only way it would be worse is if it were the NASCAR trucks.
I will tell you this. After seeing prototypes go through the carousel or the kink, after seeing...
I have some real concerns.
For me, after seeing Indy cars roll through there...
Me too.
You've seen them. So what you're going to see at the end of August is going to be like someone put a tape in slow motion.
It's trying to picture
it's going to be a lot slower, but I think it's going to be pretty entertaining.
Do they? They don't modify the track at all. It's the standard Road America.
Same track.
Yep.
Same track.
Man, I have no mental frame of reference for what it's going to look like. Is it basically giant cars going at the same speed as like MX-5? Or what? What are we really talking about?
I don't know the lap
footage
time?
from World War II? When the tanks are like charging through the fields after it's like that.
Oh God!
There's going to be a lot of loud, angry noises
all over the grass.
Are there little guys popping?
Remember, with these guys here, they don't have paddle shifting either. So when they're downshifting and braking, they actually have to use the clutch pedal.
That's exciting.
So you're gonna see them wheel hop and dance around as the transmissions disengage and engage and all that kind of stuff. And
I like that.
Much skinnier tire than an IMSA car.
Right.
Still a slick, obviously.
Wait,
but
really? They are?
Yeah, they're skinnier.
Huh.
They're a skinnier tire. So heavier cars on skinnier tires with 4 speeds instead of 7 and actual clutch.
I predict much mayhem.
There's going to be a lot of mayhem. That's what's going to keep it interesting for you. There's going to be a lot of shit going on.
Do they crash out a lot in the road courses as well?
Oh, yeah.
Remember, these guys also came up racing on ovals. They came up racing on short track ovals up to... So outside of a couple people who have had road racing experience prior and then switched to NASCAR, this is really foreign to a lot of these guys. They've gotten better. Again, they realize it's part of the schedule now. You want to win a championship, you have to be good at it. So they actually go to Bondurant driving school and stuff. And they take
How do I turn right, boss? I'm here to learn how to turn right.
They do take a lot of they're doing better at honing their craft, but it still looks like amateur hour compared to an IMSA race. It really does.
Breaking point going to be for turn 1.
Right at the end of pit lane.
I was going to say back in 14, break up the hill.
All right, okay.
So the break, so that's another thing. Long braking zone.
So we will go to Road America.
Yes.
Armed with some of our more knowledge and understanding.
Yes.
Um,
I can give it a fair
and
chance.
we will see if we enjoy it. I suggest on the recording, on the record, that we should also, if we enjoy it, at Road America, find an oval to go to. Baby steps.
They're close.
So that would be for the Monster, for the Monster series?
Whatever.
or
Chicagoland Speedway is south of
Joliet.
Chicago. Joliet
Is
is
that
a couple hours.
Does Xfinity racing?
Xfinity and Cup.
Xfinity
So you can
and
get a
Cup.
doubleheader. You can go Saturday and Sunday.
All right. Okay.
Is that a
If
deal?
Okay.
we enjoy Road America, and we will get back to
If
you,
you
folks.
legitimately enjoy Road America.
We'll get back to
Okay.
you folks on that one. We'll have a post race after we're done there. If we enjoy it, we should go to an oval. Because
Okay.
I went to IndyCar at Joliet with you on the oval, and that was exciting.
That was fantastic.
So
It's a shame they don't go there anymore.
Yeah.
It was baller. It was awesome.
so fast.
So fast.
All right. Yes, I will make that deal.
Good.
All right.
You heard it here, folks. We have
right.
witnesses.
On that deal, Nick,
Let's just get out of here.
before you can say he doesn't want to do it.
Let's change the subject quick. Who are we thanking today?
I guess I will thank 90s wrestling because that shit was the best. Like when you
Saturday mornings.
it was just really, really entertaining.
Saturday mornings on TNT or whatever it was.
Yeah, it was awesome.
I would like to thank DirecTV Now for providing Nick with his television service.
Oh, yeah.
So that when I arrived at a previous recording session, the NASCAR race is already on, and because it was on TV, I am an American, and I sat down and watched it, and this kind of started the whole thing in my head.
The March of Progress.
Yeah,
March of
this,
Progress.
This episode would not be without it, so there you go.
I need to thank my good buddy Brian Town for this awesome hat I'm wearing today.
Shouts out.
He works for GoPro. He does a lot of cool stuff. He's not going to hear this because he's probably traveling the world shooting some really cool shit. He's already done, Mugello in Italy for the Superbikes. He's done the 24 Hours of Le Mans. He's done catching big waves off the coast of Hawaii with people. Like, he does some really cool shit.
Nice.
But he gave me this hat because he's a good dude. So thank you,
Sounds
Brian
awesome.
Town. And thank you, listeners, for tuning in. Even if we suck, you guys are awesome. Please find us on Facebook. We're at Check Engine Podcast. Like us there. If you don't like us, at least share us because you might know someone who will like us. On Twitter and Instagram, you can find us at Check Engine Pod. There's no cast on the end because we ran out of space. Follow us there, and no matter what you do, please comment. We want to hear from you, what you like, what you don't like, any ideas you may have for us to talk about. Just get in touch with us. Be a part of the discussion. You can find us on anchor.fm/Check Engine Podcast. We're also streaming on Google Play, iTunes, Spotify, finally. Thank you to Spotify, Overcast, Breaker.audio, Pocket Casts, Radio Public, and Castbox. That's a lot.
Yeah.
Thanks, everybody, for sharing us. Thanks, everybody, for streaming us. Thank you, everybody, for listening. We'll talk to you again soon. Good night.
Bye.